Hello everyone. I hope you all can hear me okay. I hope you can see me okay. Um, I had a chance to step out from the conference that I am. Right now I am in Amsterdam, and there is a mini tab meeting they call partners conference in Amsterdam, and then right now we are having our dinner, and then I had a chance to step out a little bit to have this conversation here with you, this Q&A. I will do all my best to touch base with you all at least once a week. And sometimes we will be running YouTube live sessions about some important topic on Lean Six Sigma. And sometimes I'll be opening up for questions here in this Q&A live. Okay, please let me know on a scale from 0 to 10, how is my audio? Mainly my audio, okay? Please let me know. How is my audio? Yeah, on a scale from 0 to 10. And I got few questions offline. Fala, Paulo. Wonderful. Shweta, how are you, Shweta? Wow, there is a long time I don't talk to you. Shweta is one of my favorite black belts ever from the time, from my Nielsen time. Yeah, that's amazing. Wonderful. Bruno Maluf, oh my God, another very close friend. Yeah. So I'll get started. So once again, any question is a good question. Okay. So please, let me know if you have any questions about Lean Six Sigma. You can either type here, or I can see a few people requesting to come here live with me. It'll be a pleasure. I'll be more than happy to get your question here live. And I'm going to start answering two questions from Hussein. He is one of my Green Belt students, recently certified. So first of all, congratulations, Hussein. I am very proud of you. Okay, one of my... For sure, one of the most engaged, Green Belt students I have ever had, in fact, and he presented two important questions. One is more technical and one is non-technical, I'm going to get started by the non-technical question. He was asking about the certification process and the certificate itself, like the document itself, in terms of how do you present on a job interview in corporate or in different universities, for example. And the answer is very, very, very simple. And I do have few things to highlight here. One of the most important elements of the certificate is at its bottom on the left side, okay? This is your certificate ID. It's a unique sequence of characters that guarantees that the authenticity of your certificate. So it's very, very, very important that you keep in mind that there is a way for the employer to validate if your certificate is authentic or not, and it is definitely by this code, and this is valid for white belt, for yellow belt, for green belt, English and Portuguese. And if you are my student in Brazil, in Portuguese, we have black belt. We still do not offer black belt certification in English. Not yet. Hopefully soon. So this is a very important element to keep in mind, okay? And I just want to make this super clear that your certificate is presented by my training company, Marcelo Fernandes OPEX, or Marcelo Fernandes Treinamentos. Treinamentos means, treinamento means training, yeah? Wonderful. Why am I saying this? Because I am a Minitab certified trainer. I am a Minitab partner. So do you have an official Minitab certificate? No. So my students, my green belt, black belt, yellow belt, white belt students, they do not have an official Minitab certificate. If they want to get an official Minitab certificate, they need to take a Minitab training. That, by the way, is delivered by me as well, in Brazil, by me as well. Okay? So your certificate is presented by MF OPEX, yeah, Marcelo Fernandes OPEX. And tell me more about this company. MF OPEX is a training company where the lead trainer is a Minitab certified trainer. Yeah, so that's the connection. The same thing for ASQ. The same thing for ASQ. I am a Master Black Belt certified by ASQ. But your certificate is not an ASQ certification, yeah? If you guys want to have an ASQ certificate, you need to take the ASQ test, yeah? So again, your certificate will be presented by MF Treinamentos, yes? Now, let's suppose, Hussein and everybody, that the company that you are applying, for a job or a university, they need more information. Right now, I have a green belt student that he needs more details, so that the employer is asking about more details about the training, the certification process. For example, starting date, end date, what else? The content. Sometimes the employer wants to have the details about the content. VOC, CTQ, QFD, Ishikawa, pairwise comparison, two sample T, two proportion, blah, blah, blah. So if the employer needs more information, we always provide additional documents, always, okay? You guys just need, in Brazil, you can write down to contato@mftreinamentos.com. If you are not from Brazil, you can write down to support, yeah, at mftreinamentos.com, and we will provide all the information you need, okay? Fernando, it's a pleasure to have you here. Fernando is a black belt student, a superstar as well. Shweta, it's a pleasure to have you here, Shweta, from India. I don't know if you are still based in Mumbai, out of India. Yeah, I have amazing students in Mumbai. Amazing. Ivan, how are you? Madagascar, wonderful. Nigeria. Thank you, Edu. Thank you so much for your words. Thank you so much. And yeah, Hussein, let me know if that makes sense. Hi, Ralph, how are you? If my memory is good, you are based out of Boston, right? Out of Boston in the US. Yeah, I have. My students are fancy. Yeah, they are based all over the globe. Unfortunately, I do not have my guitar. I have my guitar in the hotel, but right now I am in the middle of a Minitab conference. Yeah, in Amsterdam, and I am in another hotel where the conference is being held. Yeah, if I was at my hotel for sure. Hello, Alexandre. How are you? Wonderful. That's amazing, Hussein. I'm glad to know you liked. So I'm gonna go to the second part of your question. And by the way, everybody here, please let me know if you have any question. any questions about Lean Six Sigma, okay? You can write down here and I'll be more than glad to answer, to reply you back. So please feel free to type here, and I'll be more than glad to help you, regardless if this is a technical, non-technical question, regardless if you are a white belt, a yellow belt, a green belt, a black belt, a master black belt. I'll be more than happy I'll do all my best to help you, okay? All my best to help you. So the second question that came from Hussein it's a technical question, okay? So it has to do with the 1.5 sigma shift. So I'll just give a little bit of information, okay, about the topic. Then we go from macro to micro. Yes. Here we are talking about capability analysis. Yeah, measure phase and control phase. So there is no better way to represent the size of your problem than sigma level. Sigma level is by far the best way to represent the size of your problem. Remember that on Lean Six Sigma we run projects, so we like to positively impact processes, to solve structural problems via projects, CI projects, continuous improvement projects, yes? And we have a framework named define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. Wonderful. So we define the problem, define meaning we guarantee that this is a high priority problem, a problem that must be solved. Then we measure the size of the problem. Then we find the root cause or the root causes. Then we take corrective actions, and then we take control actions to maintain the positive results. So we will find capability analysis on mainly on measure phase and in control phase. Yeah. And if you are new to this topic, to Lean Six Sigma, just know that we imagine, for example, that we want to check if, take a look here. Imagine, so you guys can count with me, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4 glasses, 4 more glasses, and 1 more, yeah? I can argue that this dimension here, for example, the diameter, here, it's the same for all glasses. Yeah, I can argue that they are the same. Yeah, I can argue that they are the same. But if you are a certified white belt, you know that they are not. Even if they look the same, the glasses are different. They are different. Even if the difference is on the 4th decimal place, on the 5th decimal place, you will find a difference. Yeah? Beautiful. So if they are different, you cannot work with just one single number to represent, for example, the diameter, as I showed, or the weight, or the height. You cannot use one single number. So you cannot simply present a mean. Yeah, you cannot measure like all the 9 dimensions and calculate a mean. This is too poor. It's important to have, but it's not enough. Yeah. So you can have a mean, but on top of that, you need to have some sort of variation measurement. You need to measure, to quantify variation. You must quantify variation. Ladies and gentlemen, you must, if you like continuous improvement and you want to present the size of the problem, you must consider variation. Regardless if you will calculate like range or standard deviation or variance, you need to have a measurement of variation, because then you will be adding the probabilistic aspect, of your process. This is so important. You'll be switching from what we call deterministic approach to a stochastic or probabilistic approach. And this is so important, so beautiful, because then you can estimate risk. It's pretty much about, yeah, if you have a better picture in terms of your process, if this picture is closer to reality, you know, you have a better representation and a better estimation in terms of risk associated to your process. So you must have a central tendency, yeah, measurement like mean. You must have a variation measurement, and you must have at least one specification limit, at least one, yeah. And with this information, because sometimes you have lower spec limit, sometimes you have upper spec limit, and sometimes you have both, yeah. With these, basically with these three pillars, you'll be able to calculate a capability index, yeah. Sometimes CPK, PPK, but by far the most complete capability index is sigma level, yeah, sigma level. Well, beautiful. Six Sigma was created on the 1980s in Motorola, right? In Motorola, wonderful, by Bill Smith, Professor Bill Smith. But maybe one of the guys that worked super hard to make Six Sigma more popular was Mike Harry. And many people say that Bill Smith and Mike Harry, they are both the fathers, yeah, of Six Sigma, yeah, 1980s, United States. Wonderful. Mike Harry, I mean, we never know if there were other, other experts, other experts that supported this decision. But the majority of the authors say that Mike Harry was the responsible for proposing this famous 1.5 sigma shift. So what does it mean? Imagine that I am measuring, the diameter of these glasses, yeah, and I am taking samples every hour. So every hour I go to the production line and then I take 10 glasses like this. And because I put my hand here, I think I'm gonna separate. Just came to my mind. I think I should not take this and just start putting my hand like this. Oh my God. So let me separate these. And then I guarantee that it will be cleaned. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is a quality scape. So you don't have 9 anymore. Now we have 8, right? So imagine that every hour I go and I take 10 of these, 10, yeah? And then I can calculate, for example, mean and standard deviation, yeah? Mean and standard deviation, wonderful. Then 1 hour later, I go to the process, yeah, they are producing, 200 per hour, yeah, and I take just 10, that's my subgroup size, if you are into control charts, into statistical process control. At the top of the hour, I go and I take 10, boom, and I measure, yeah? And then at the top of the hour, another 10. Beautiful. You guys know that the mean will vary and the standard deviation will vary as well, yeah? And if I project the same situation, not hour by hour, but now day by, or shift by shift, or day by day, or week by week, you can imagine that we have a normal probability distribution for the diameter, yeah? You can imagine that this normal probability distribution will not be the same if you compare day by day, if you compare hour by hour, if you compare shift by shift, if you compare week by week. Yeah, it will not be the same, you know. So we can consider that all processes will present a certain performance when I take a picture, boom. And very likely, another performance if you observe long term. Yeah, if you observe long term. Yeah? Does it make sense so far? Type here for me if it makes sense so far. Wonderful, beautiful, beautiful. So how do we manage this immediate picture, versus the process performance long term? Yeah. So if my memory is okay, on page 246 of the ASQ Black Belt Handbook, there is a very interesting text. There is a very interesting paragraph where the author says, confusion abounds this topic. And then he presents 3 different authors. Yeah, and his argument is very strong because he starts saying, what is short term, what is long term? Yeah, because short term, I can argue that's the immediate picture that I took. But what is long term? What is long term? One week, 1 month, 1 year, yeah? And then the second author that he presents talks about this 1.5 sigma shift. That again, very likely it was proposed by Mike Harry. That's a way to standardize, assuming that all processes will have your sigma level reduced by 1.5 long term. So it's like I am taking a picture now, boom. But then I assume that long term, the real performance will be 1.5 sigma worst. So you pretty much calculate, you just calculate your sigma level, yeah? And from this sigma level, see now it's the tricky, it gets even trickier, you know? Because, for example, in Minitab, when you calculate the sigma level, the overall sigma level, this is long term. This author says that this is long term. Because it's not observed. Remember that in Minitab you have observed, and then, yeah, and then you have at the very bottom for ppm. You have observed, and then you have overall and within projected performance, yeah? So you would, in this case, add 1.5, yeah? Add 1.5. So if you have, for example, 4.5 as your sigma level, you will see that you have 3.4 parts per million, yeah? You see that on Minitab. But then this author says that, no, you should consider not 4.5. The short-term sigma level is 6. Yeah, is 6. Now, you guys can imagine that it is dangerous to just assume that all processes will get your sigma level reduced by 1.5 long term. This is This is a hard to sustain statement. This is very hard to sustain. How can you sustain this argument? How can you raise your hand and say, long term, your process will get 1.5 sigma worst? This is very hard to sustain, very hard. In my point of view, very respectfully, I do respect Mike Harry has a history. He has a name in the history of Six Sigma, right? He's not among us anymore. He passed away a few years ago. I respect, his recommendation, that all processes will vary 1.5 sigma long term. But in my point of view, it's very hard, very hard to argue. First of all, what's long term? And second, why 1.5? Why 1.5 for all processes? For all processes. So, in Minitab, we do not use, Hussein, we do not use 1.5 sigma shift. We do not use. In MF Treinamentos, I do not recommend my students to use 1.5 sigma shift. If you take a look in the entire material, the English material and also the material in Portuguese, you guys will not see anything about 1.5. I strongly recommend not using, again, because in my point of view, it's impossible to sustain that all processes will have a reduction in terms of sigma level by 1.5, like flat, 1.5 flat. And what is long term? What is long term? So my recommendation is you run on measure phase your capability analysis, you take your sigma level, that's your sigma level, baseline sigma level, and then in control phase you just calculate the same way, overall sigma level. So it's the sigma level that comes with PPK, yeah? And you do the same in control phase, yeah? If you want to take the within sigma level, that's okay too. But my recommendation is, please do not add up 1.5. Do not add up 1.5 sigma. Do not. There is another reason, Hussein, for not doing that. There is, if you say that your process improved from 0 to 1.5 sigma, let's suppose on measure phase you got 0 sigma, and in control phase you have 1.5. This is completely different from on measure phase you being 1.5 to 3 sigma. Completely different. In terms of percentage of defective units. Completely different. 0 sigma, you are seeing that you have 50% of defective units. 1.5, you would get something around 58 to 95%, of good products, So like we would be talking about 20 something percent. So from 50% to 20 something percent, as baseline. So I strongly recommend, please do not use the sigma shift, okay? And one of the the most challenging aspects of just abandoning, the 1.5 sigma shift is the fact that it became popular, Hussein. The 3.4 ppm with 6 sigma. Because in fact, 3.4 ppm is not 6 sigma. 3.4 ppm is 4.5. 4.5 sigma. 6 sigma is something around 2 ppb, parts per billion. Parts per billion, the real 6 sigma, Yeah. Thank you, Hussein. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm glad you liked the explanation, okay? I'm gonna go back there and see if there are other questions. Thank you so much. And once again, congratulations, Hussein. I am very proud of you. Hello, Margaret. How are you from Botswana? And then we have Oridas from Algeria. Thank you so much. Oh, Campbell. Yeah, that's a good point. For this session, for this Q&A session, yeah, I am not taking notes, but it'll be here on my Instagram. I'll keep this Q&A session here, okay? So you can go back and watch the entire session as well. And yeah, and I think we'll be uploading this on YouTube as well. Can you elaborate on the rationale of using P? What is P? That's a good one. And why we use the limit of reject hypothesis? That's great, Brinda. Thank you for your question, Brinda. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. Remember that we are crazy on a good sense. We love to find root causes, right, Brinda? We love to find root causes. But the process of finding root cause, the process involves much more than process observation, brainstorming, talking to the experts. We must collect data and check our hypothesis. What's a thesis, a PhD thesis? It's a statement that was already validated. What's hypo? Hypo is less than, it's half. So hypothesis, less than a thesis. Beautiful. Maybe in what we call the modern statistics, maybe since Ronald Fisher, one of the most powerful techniques, to check if you need to reject or not a hypothesis is by looking at the p-value. The famous p-value. P-value varies from 0 to 1. It will never be absolute 0 and it will never be absolute 1. But I don't want I want to keep it simple. Let's keep it simple. But just keep in your heart that it will never be absolute 0. And never be absolute 1, absolute 100%, yeah? Okay, and what does p-value tell us, okay? Let's suppose I am saying that this mean here, when I open up, there is no meat. Let's suppose I create this hypothesis that, see, I just opened up and there is a meat here, yeah? But let's suppose someone creates this hypothesis. You open up and it will be empty, yeah? So see, I have four possibilities. I can say that it is empty. I am saying it is empty. And then when I open up, I see that this is, no problem. I see that this is empty. And then it's okay. Yeah? I can say that there is a mint inside, and there is a mint inside. Wonderful. But then I have two other possible scenarios. I can say that there is no mint, and when I open up, there is a mint. And I can say that there is a mint, and when I open up, there is nothing. So there are basically two possible scenarios for me to make a mistake, to make a mistake, yeah? So one of the ways to understand p-value is, normally statisticians don't like that we call that we associate p-value with probability. But on a very practical, and just to keep it simple, let's keep it super simple. One of the ways to understand p-value is the, in quotes, probability of rejecting, rejecting the null hypothesis, and I'll explain what's the null hypothesis. Reject when it should not be rejected. It should not be rejected. So let's suppose the null hypothesis, normally the null hypothesis, it's what we call status quo. It should be always, the null hypothesis should be always the status quo. So what's the status quo? There is a mint. If it says that there is a mint here, there is a mint. So the null hypothesis is, yes, there is a mint. There is a mint. Yeah? So if I am rejecting this hypothesis, then I am saying that I said there is a mint. But then when I opened up, like for example like this, I said there is a mint, but then when I open up, oh, there is nothing. Yeah. So p-value, one of the ways to understand in a very practical point of view, p-value expresses, the, in quotes, probability of rejecting the null hypothesis, when we should not reject. So see, if p-value is low, like it's close to zero, if it is close to zero, what I am saying is, hey, let's go ahead and reject the null hypothesis, because the probability to reject when we should not reject, it is so low that the risk is very low. We should reject. I mean, we have arguments, we have evidence. I don't know, an X-ray, or I had a chance to touch. I was touching it, and then, well, I can guarantee that there is no mint here inside, I did not open up, but I can guarantee, So if your p-value is low, what you are saying is, go ahead and reject your null hypothesis. Because again, what does p-value expresses? It's the probability of me raising my hand and saying, to the customer, to my boss, I don't know, that, let's reject. Because the null hypothesis is, yes, there is a mint. No, let's reject. There is no mint. But why are you doing this? No, because I have evidence. That the probability of me doing that and being wrong, it's very small. We need to be careful because here we are talking about inferential statistics, and then every time you take a sample, even if you respect all the sampling rules, golden rules, mainly the sample must be random. If you respect that, your p-values will be different from sample to sample, that's one of the reasons it's a little bit dangerous to talk about probability, but in a very in a very simple way and in a very practical way, you can have in your heart that that value expresses, the chances that you are rejecting the null hypothesis when you should not reject, when you should not reject. And but then I keep saying here, Brinda, like low. What is low? What is low? Yeah? And one of the most famous um, thresholds, is 0.055%. What's low? It's anything, below, smaller or equal than 0.055%. Yeah. There's I don't know if this is a silly code, but it's very, very much used. That is, if P is low, no must go. Probably you guys have heard this before. If P is low, no hypothesis. Like NULL, no must go. Yeah. And and it's very famous. It's like this mechanics of writing down a hypothesis, collecting data and checking p-value and then making a conclusion. This kind of approach is very, very, very much used. Very, very much used. Yeah. Please let me know, Brinda, if I properly replied to your question. Yeah. How is it best to introduce these two in a region company where it is not well known? Wizard. So my recommendation is keep it simple. Do not use like fancy technical terms. Keep it simple. Listen to the people. Let them shine, Yeah, they need to be upfront they need to be the heroes, the stars, let them shine. And try to run at least one important project connected to the business strategy, respecting the voice of the employees, but also the voice of the business. You must get the leaders on your side. It's very important to listen to the VOB, voice of the business. So talk to the leaders. Yeah, talk to the leaders. That's my recommendation. How is it best to have maximum impact with the Lean Six Sigma program in the shortest time? Yeah, it has to do with the reply that I just gave. Yeah. Let me see if we have other questions. Other questions? What is confidence interval and how is it calculated? Beautiful. So what is confidence interval? So in a very simple way, imagine again that I am measuring now the weight of these glasses. I have like a sample by the size of 9 here. Yeah. So I got a mean, sample mean, and I got a standard deviation, for example. Let's assume that the weight behaves according to a normal probability distribution. Wonderful, beautiful. So if I want to project, for example, the population mean, I don't know the population mean. I don't know. I have only a sample by the size of 9. I don't know. I don't have even the population size. Yeah. So how can I at least estimate? How can I at least estimate, with the sample that I have here? So one of the ways, it's really the sample mean plus or minus. It should be the standard deviation of the population, but it's very hard to get the standard deviation of the population. Yeah. Divided by square root of the sample size times, in this case, a z that is related to your confidence level. Normally, we use confidence level of 95%. So So your Z would be roughly 2. It's 1.96, yeah? So standard deviation times 1.96 divided by the square root of the sample size. If this is too technical for you guys, just keep in mind that we call this as margin of error, the famous margin of error. So in very simple words, a confidence interval, it's nothing but your sample mean plus or minus margin of error. And the way you calculate margin of error, it depends on the population parameter that you are estimating. It depends on the distribution, that you are considering. But in very simple terms, a confidence interval is nothing but sample mean. For this example, okay, now we are inferring the population mean. Yeah, it's a sample mean plus or minus margin of error, and this is very helpful again to give to the customers, to your boss, to your stakeholders a picture in terms of risk, risk associated. Because again, every time that you can present a picture considering the probabilistic aspect, of your process, there is a lot of value in it, mainly related to risk. Yeah. Wonderful. Please let me know if that was helpful. Wonderful, Brenda. Oh, Catherine, I'm glad to know. So you had a chance to be on a white belt training and it's already practicing. I'm glad to know that, Catherine. Thank you so much. Hello, Elisbão, Edu. E aí, Edu, tudo bom? Ô, André, beleza, irmão? Você tá bem, cara? André is a green belt student as well, and he's an amazing soccer player, and a cooker and a chef, yeah. He can prepare the best parmigiana ever. Yeah. Oh, Everton. Tudo bom, Everton? How are you, my friend? Yeah. Who wants to come here online with me? Let me see. Who wants? Please send here your invitation. If you want to ask your question here online. Live with Marcelinho. Come on. I'm glad to know you liked. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Parmigiana. That's wonderful. Please send here your request if you wanna. If you wanna participate here live with me. And if you have any other questions, please type here for me. It will be a pleasure. Thank you, Marcel. Wonderful, guys. I hope it was helpful. Did you guys like? It's the very first time I am running this Q&A session here on Instagram with this international audience. If you guys like this format, for sure we'll have more, okay? We'll have more. I had to kind of improvise my office today because I am not in Brazil this week. We are having the Minitab Partners Conference in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, and but I really wanted to touch base with my audience, with my students. It's always a pleasure. So I will do all my best to at least once a week to run a Q&A session and or to run a Lean Six Sigma Masterclass, to talk about a relevant, there's a fly, mosquito, to run a Q&A session and or a masterclass about a Lean Six Sigma topic, okay? Wonderful. Yes, Hussein. So see, normally we explore this a little bit more on our black belt training, yeah, stakeholder analysis. But to make it simple, to keep it simple, Hussein, Jack Welch used to say that if you don't have the support from the tier one, leadership team, you should not run a project, a Lean Six Sigma project, or at that time, a Six Sigma project. So it's super important, super, super, super important. And there is a very simple tool, Hussein, that you can use. We call stakeholder map, yeah, or stakeholder diagnosis, yeah, where you have at the very top the name of the stakeholders, and once again, what is a stakeholder? Anyone that is directly impacted by the potential results of your project. Okay, so if I am running a project about the optimization of the glass weight, one stakeholder for sure is the production manager. Another one is the quality manager. Another one is the production supervisor. Another one is the maintenance supervisor, because very likely you'll be touching, the equipments, right? Yeah. So you need to place all the stakeholders at the very top of your matrix. And then you can use the Likert scale to rank the level of support. At the very top you have like enthusiastic support, then you have good support, and then the third level is neutral, the fourth level is unsupportive, and the very last level you can call like opposite. If the stakeholder literally oppose to the project, yeah. And then you need to map it out, Hussein. You need to map it out. You know that you will never run this tool on a meeting room like this. You will never run. Imagine that you put all the stakeholders here, and then you start asking, okay, John, what's your level? What's your level of enthusiasm with this project? Okay, Mary, what's your level of enthusiasm? No, it's not like this. It's really your perception. It's qualitative. It's your perception. Yeah, and then when you complete this map of, again, we call stakeholder map or stakeholder diagnosis, you will be amazed, Hussein. You'll be amazed to see the number of insights that will come up, and mainly, if you should go ahead with your project or not. Because if you map out, 10 stakeholders, and then you see that 9 of them are unsupportive or opposed to your project, And we have one stakeholder that we call champion. The champion is the most important stakeholder. That is really your sponsor, who is sponsoring. Yeah, it's the most important stakeholder. So, and by the way, in my point of view, if your sponsor is not at the very top level, like enthusiastic support, you should not run your project. You should not run your project. Yeah. And with this map, you can define strategies, Hussein, to at least try to increase the level of enthusiasm on key stakeholders. Via communication, proper communication, and or influencers. Because sometimes, I don't know, I have a problem with John, but then André is my friend and André is John's friend. And then I can ask André's support for him to talk to John. If there is something in there for André as well. The famous "what's in it for me?" What's in it for me? People say that communication is the root cause of the root causes. Inadequate communication is the root cause of the root causes. The vast majority of the problems, they are created, primarily based, almost always, on an inadequate communication. And if the problem is already there, I mean, if you don't use the right communication strategy, you can make things even worse. Yeah, it's funny. I don't know where did I hear that, that the majority of the people, they believe that they are great communicators, right? But communication is really a mix of science and art. There are techniques, there are ways to approach, a challenging stakeholder. And the core element to increase enthusiasm in corporate environment is the famous "what's in it for me?" What's in it for me? Because normally corporate is a very, very competitive environment, and if you do not have something strong, for the stakeholder, I mean, for sure he or she has a lot of things to do. So you must come up with something that will gain, his or her attention, and then you can articulate an argument that project is important. Now it's just my opinion, Hussein. It's just my opinion. As your mentor, I strongly recommend that you don't force that much. Because if you have a project that after you map the stakeholders' enthusiasm, you see that this is weak, that this is not strong. If you see that this is not strong, maybe it says something. Maybe it's really because your project is not good. Yeah, sometimes there is some power games, some politics, and then you need to articulate, and then maybe the stakeholders did not understand very well the importance of your project. Then it's a communication issue, maybe. But sometimes stakeholders are not engaged because the project is poor. Sometimes it's just because the project is not a good project. Simple like that. Yeah. And then sometimes it's better to abandon the project and pick another one. Select another one. And I am saying this now, opening up my heart, Hussein. I am opening up my heart. 2005. I have an iconic example, very, 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 very very strong and sad, sad example. It was a great lesson learned experience, you know, but it was painful, very painful. Very painful. It was one of my first projects at Delphi Automotive Systems, you know. And then I was in a situation where it was a Kanban project, you know, a huge Kanban project. Huge Kanban project. And I started facing some huge resistance from many important stakeholders. And then Hussein, it was a project for Fiat, the Italian automotive company, you know, in a city named Itabirito, close to Belo Horizonte in Brazil. And then I started using all my techniques, all my communication techniques, you know, my articulation techniques, and talking to the influencers to increase the level of enthusiasm from the stakeholders. And I finally got the support, the necessary, the enough support from the stakeholders to run my Kanban, my super Kanban project, you know. And that's beautiful. And then we went ahead to Itabirito and we spent weeks and weeks to build the Kanban. And it was a disaster. It was a shame. It was a shame. The results were terrible. It didn't work. Yeah, we were not able to control inventory. Yeah, we were not able to control inventory. In fact, the inventory increased and we started creating disruption in the flow. It was a disaster. So a huge amount or a huge portion of the resistance that I was facing at the very beginning made sense. And I was not able to listen to the voice of the business, the voice of the employee, the voice of the leadership. They had a point. There was a reason for them to be resistant, you know. But then I was using all these change management techniques, you know, to push my idea, my project, you know. But at the end of the day, it was a bad idea. It was a bad idea. If you tell me to start eating this glass here, I will be resistant. I must resist. I cannot start eating, you know, this paper. If you tell me, Marcelo, start eating this paper, you know, no, I will be resistant. And then you start using some change management techniques for me to convince that my level of enthusiasm, you know, needs to go up. And I need to understand that I need to think outside the box. Marcelo, think outside the box, you know. You need to eat this paper. No. This is not a good idea. This is a bad idea. So sometimes when you find resistance, try to listen. Try to at least, try to see if, you know, if it really, if this is pure, like nonsense resistance, because sometimes it's not. Sometimes there is a reason for them to be resistant. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mademoiselle. Bosto, hypothesis testing, it's really a statistical technique on you based on a sample will make conclusions about population parameters. Yeah? Yeah, you are right. I'm implementing the Lean Six Sigma. What's the best to make quick wins? Yeah, Boca, as I mentioned before, I strongly recommend that you pick the high impact, low effort projects. Okay? Wonderful, guys. It was a pleasure. Gabriela, obrigado, Gabriela. Muito obrigado. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gabriela. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this Q&A session. It was a pleasure, okay? I will do all my best. I'll be outside Brazil next week too. I'll be back in Brazil at the end of the month. I will do all my best to touch base with you all next week too. I'll do all my best, and I hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A session. I'll keep it recorded here on my Instagram, and have a wonderful rest of week. Thank you so much, and let's keep in touch. Bye-bye.